Okay, let's dive into what is Oversoul Embodiment. How do we get our Oversoul more deeply embodied into ourselves? Because remember, the true path of spiritual growth is not up, it's down and in. So this isn't just a teaching, it's really, I think, an invitation into the sacred science of embodied ascension. That's what I'm going to discuss today, embodied ascension. For thousands of years, I think humanity's been reaching upward, right? We've been chasing the heavens, pursuing enlightenment and trying to rise above the body. But what if the true path home isn't up, but in, right? What if spiritual evolution is not about escaping Earth, but actually anchoring our Oversoul fully into the body? So in this video, I want to map what that journey actually looks like, from Oversoul descent to avatar embodiment, and all the way up to this very rare and powerful Rishi mirror stage of consciousness. I want to share with you a really clear framework for the 12 Oversoul Pillars. We're going to talk about the avatar Triads, and we're going to explore the real reason why most people are blocked from embodiment. Also, I want to share with you why the next 7 years, from where I'm shooting this video now, 2025, September 2025 to 2032, is so critical, right? Because we're right in the midst of a planetary bifurcation. This bifurcation is separating out the synthetic from the organic. And what you choose to embody, well, that's going to really determine which timeline you're here to anchor, you're going to anchor, right? This isn't conceptual spirituality. This is really, a living frequency technology. The Oversoul is not some sort of vague idea. It's actually your eternal self waiting to enter your life, your relationships, your nervous system, your voice. And if you're ready to embodiment, I'm happy to guide you how that works. I'll do as much as I can on this video for you. But before we begin, I think I probably should define the Oversoul. Your Oversoul is let's say, the multidimensional intelligence of your true divine self. It exists beyond your personality, beyond your ego, and actually it even exists beyond your soul. And your Oversoul spans, 12 different energy streams, or what I call pillars, that hold your unique purpose and memory and gifts in place, and service contracts. While your soul experiences lifetimes, your Oversoul is what carries the continuity across them all, right? It's the living library of your essence before any distortion. In Christic terms, right, your Oversoul is the intermediary between, say, your human self and your more eternal source flame. And what it wants to do is come down into Oversoul descent. And the Oversoul descent is actually the process of your higher consciousness coming into the body. Not just guiding and floating from above, but incarnating in through your biology. Remember, true spiritual growth isn't going up into the light. It's bringing the light down into your flesh. And as your Oversoul descends, it begins to change your nervous system, right? It changes, it calms down. Your perception changes. You get more connected to your purpose, your way of being in the world. You start to feel way more coherent, less fragmented. Your words carry much more charge. Your presence becomes super activating. And eventually you stop trying to perform spirituality because you're actually in the transmission. And that's what Embodied Ascension is all about, a true, authentic transmission from your cellular intelligence. Embodied Ascension is that you're no longer talking or thinking about spiritual growth, you're actually living it in your cells. Now, your Oversoul doesn't descend all at once. Usually it descends in stages, in triads of 3 streams at a time. The first 3 pillars, sort of braid together and drop in. But in order for you to do that, you've got to clear out all the mimic interference, mirror interference, trauma, frequency things from the gates that your Oversoul drops down. Your Oversoul drops down, the more deeper you go, it means you need to start aligning more and more with divine law. It's not about being good or moral, but being guided by your own divine intelligence, which is law, right? And this is the path of true embodied enlightenment. Is starting to connect in and drop down these pillars. So your Oversoul, it works in these 4 triads, 3 pillars to each triad, a total of 12 pillars, okay? The first stage is the descent. The first pillar carries your divine incarnation purpose, your primary soul wound that actually becomes your medicine. The second pillar is like your soul voice, your flame. The second pillar, when it lands, unlocks your authentic expression and vibrational communication. The third pillar that braids is all about harmonic identity. It bridges your lifetime's identities into one and restores your original self-concept beyond the personality. So that's the first triad. The second triad is your relational field. So the fourth pillar is like your lineage redeemer, flame, right? It processes your ancestral and karmic distortions across your family lines and begins to clean that out. The fifth pillar is your sacred mirror flame. And this is what's going to start regulating all of your soul agreements and mirrors any unresolved patterns that you have in others and brings them up for clearing. And then the third pillar in that triad, pillar 6, is the collective reweaver. And that's a flame that reweaves things and holds the capacity for you to restore coherence in groups, in communities, and in collective timelines. And if you make it up to the third triad, right? So you're looking at pillar 7, 8, and 9. The first one's Vault Aligner Flame. It links your planetary service node and mission activation on specific lands, and you start being called to specific lands. The 8th pillar is all about the skill transmission and unlocks your divine healing and teaching capacities from these other higher strands of memory. And your 9th pillar, the last one in the third triad, is your planetary scroll flame holder. This is when it starts to connect your soul mission to global evolutionary cycles, so you become a player in the global unfolding of things. Finally, we get to our fourth triad, pillars 10, 11, and 12. The 10th Oversoul pillar is your field flame carrier. It stabilizes your Oversoul presence in your energy field and in your environment, so the flame lives inside you. The 11th pillar is like your Oversoul crown flame. And what it does is it anchors your Oversoul presence through your heart, thymus, and pineal gate, right? And acts as a bridge so the flame lives here. And finally, the 12th pillar is the flame host integration flame. And what that does is that it finalizes your Oversoul embodiment and opens up the bridge for your first avatar pillar to drop in. So if we take a look at these stages, is that, the process and stages you move through to integrate your Oversoul into your cellular intelligence goes through a series of steps. It's like a process. The journey of Oversoul embodiment unfolds in these, let's say 4 progressive stages, and each of these stages builds upon the last with, say, increasing depth, increasing coherence. The first phase is stabilisation. That's the first key threshold. What's going on here is that your field begins to clear interference. Any energetic entanglements get cleared out. Mimic frequencies need to be purged. And if you've been following me for a while, I've been talking about mimic and mirror fields for a while. They've got to get cleared out. Mimic copies the light. The mirror reflects the light. All those have to be cleared out. Trauma needs to be cleared out so that you can start vibrating at the original signature of your Oversoul. You've got to get clear the mirror and mimic fields. Stabilisation phase doesn't happen through force. It occurs as your nervous system and your field and your life choices just simply begin to align more with truth, more with your inner integrity, your inner coherence. This means you've got to do the inner shadow work and get rid of all the trauma and all the nervous system discordance. You've got to close that gap between any performance-based expression, right? And where you are today. I mean, I know this very well from my early years, where as a trainer, when I was a personal trainer all these years ago, I'd create a persona of where I wanted to be rather than where I actually was. And the reason I did that was because of low self-worth, trying to manage other people's opinions and expectations by making myself seem bigger and better than I actually felt on the inside. So one of the keys is to close that gap between performance and reality. So you're not trying to manage expectations, you are who you are. Because what happens is that your nervous system picks up on this lie and broadcasts a signal that others can feel. That's this incongruence between reality and projection. And the truth of it is that not only others can feel it, but your oversoul can feel it. It won't come into a body when the signals split like that. Oh, you're pretending to be spiritual rather than actually are. Where you're further ahead than the truth of where you are. And this is what prevents the oversoul from merging down into it. And typically what we're looking at here is that typically we need this braiding and embodiment through the 5th, 6th and 7th dimensions. And this starts happening as an ongoing process. It's kind of like spiritual osmosis, right? You may feel sudden expansions of clarity or spontaneous healing happening or rapid realignment in your life as these structures begin to drop in. But the more your oversoul begins to fuse with your soul and your flesh, you're going to experience more inner authority, more mission clarity, more deeper embodiment. That's what starts going on in that 2nd stage. The 3rd stage is descent, where the oversoul incarnates directly into the physical body. And that's where true embodiment begins, right? It's no longer a connection upward, right, but a union inward. The oversoul intelligence starts to enter your tissues, your bones, your fascia, your breath. Your whole physiology begins to shift. Your nervous system bandwidth begins to expand. You stop emitting the electrical charge. Your emotional patterns soften. All your relationship dynamics begin changing. Your perceptions sharpen. You begin to live from presence, a knowing that feels both, ancient and eternal. And once you've got into the descent, finally the next stage is the transmission. This is the point where you're not just carrying their oversoul frequency, you're actually broadcasting it from your flesh, from your body, from your breath. Your presence just automatically becomes a catalyst for others without effort, right? Your field speaks directly to the nervous system of others. You become a living transmitter of purity, of alignment, of remembrance. Your life is like an emissary of coherence, right? You're no longer trying to be spiritual. You are simply embodying who you truly are, right? And so these are these different stages that start to drop down, these 4 stages, right? Until you're actually transmitting your oversoul. But the truth of it is there are reasons why people aren't able to do that. And the 5 reasons that I've been tracking, most people are blocked from embodying their oversoul is, it's simple. I've tracked 5 of them. So, most people want to grow spiritually, but actually very few in the world are actually embodying their oversoul. Because the truth of it is that oversoul embodiment isn't about how much you know. It's about how much your true self you can hold in your body without distortion, without collapse, without the mimic contamination. And the problem is that these mimic fields and mirror fields have been slowly infiltrating us over lifetimes. And they're so entangled in the oversoul field that we don't actually know ourselves outside of them. But, if we take a look at 5 common reasons over this last sort of year we've been tracking all of this, is the first one is that people don't know what the oversoul actually is. Most people don't actually have a map. They confuse intuition with the oversoul, or they mistake these upper chakra opens for full embodiment, or they believe the oversoul connection is something abstract or out of reach. Because, without accurate teaching, you can end up chasing the light instead of descending truth. So you've got to learn your oversoul architecture pretty well. The second issue is that most people's soul fields are still carrying fractures. So how this works is every soul carries wounds from other lifetimes, be it abandonment or betrayal or being involved in parties that misused power or had spiritual exile. These create energetic scar tissue that blocks the oversoul from descending. These fractures and scar tissue, when remain unhealed, the oversoul is not going to fuse for the body when these fractures are in the system. It's just not going to come in. The third thing is that a lot of people are still operating from mirror or mimic fields. Unfortunately, most spiritual content online is actually infused with mostly mirror reflection, mimic intelligence, false light, these smooth sounding overlays that divert oversoul energy. You can hear it in people's voices who are pretending to be spiritual. I mean, I can't even get on Instagram these days without getting hit by so much mirror and mimic. Flackbook's the same. I mean, if you're trying to heal or descend through mimic pathways, you're not going to get embodied. you're going to get entangled. And that's unfortunately the truth of what's going on right now out there. And the fourth thing is the nervous system. People's nervous system can't hold the frequency of oversoul embodiment, right? This isn't just simply an energetic phenomena, it's biological. People's nervous systems are dysregulated, too much electrical charge from the trauma patterns that haven't been cleared out yet, too much adrenaline floating through the system, and that won't stabilize the oversoul presence. The oversoul will not descend into a system if your nervous system doesn't feel safe. If your nervous system still carries echoes of trauma, your oversoul is not going to drop into that. And the fifth, and probably the most important, is that the 12 oversoul pillars, right? The first one, the one comes in first and the second two linked to that, descend through 7 specific gates. Each gate is tied to a dimensional bandwidth and part of your energetic body. Most people have one or more of these gates blocked by these mimic entities or mimic fields or unresolved contracts or vows or imprints or mirror fragmentation. You've got to clear these gates so that the oversoul can come in for a stable descent. Otherwise, it's not going to come in. And the problem is that most people don't have the precision to track what's going on in their own energetic architecture. And this is why the most important thing that, in my opinion, what you can do on your path right now is that you don't actually need more information. You need to clear distortion. You need to clear out the scar tissue, the things that are blocking the gates. Your oversoul is going to want to drop in, right? You don't have to earn your oversoul. It's not waiting for you to be perfect. It's already here and it's pulsing. It's just beyond the veil of the mimic and the mirror overlays, but it can't descend into false light. That's what false light architecture is what I call the mirror and the mimic, right? It will not merge with fragmented fields that bypass trauma. Embodiment only happens when the architecture is clean enough for your true signal to root fully into your body and fully into your life. But the problem is that most of us have lived inside distortion for so long, we don't even realize it's distortion. You know, we've been marinating in these karmic patterns, these kind of subtle mimic fields of spirituality, this inherited kind of fragmentation for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So that's why sometimes having, an external reading from someone clear enough to see is not a luxury, it's a necessity, right? Someone who can actually scan the actual state of your oversoul architecture and tell you exactly which gates are blocked and what mimic streams or what mirror streams are present and exactly what must be cleared next and exactly how to clear it. Without this type of clarity, what I've noticed is that most people are just stumbling around through their spiritual path, guessing, looping, wondering why their practices are not actually translating into any true momentum in their life or any true embodiment of their oversoul. But imagine if you had really precise, progressive steps and clearings. And of course, you need the motivation to do them. But if you were prepared to put in, 10, 15 minutes a day of focused clearing type work, oversoul embodiment doesn't become possible, it becomes inevitable. And this is why what the whole oversoul embodiment pathway is here to offer. And I'm really excited to open up spaces to a monthly membership. Consider it like an embodied Ascension club. It's only for people who are prepared to do the soul shadow work. What I can offer is that we're able to go in and track and see what exactly is preventing your oversoul from dropping in, what distortions are playing out in your multidimensional consciousness field, and what's going on in your physical body to prevent your oversoul from dropping in, what vows and distortions from lifetimes are playing out, where are you buffering your truth, where have you got distortion lined up in your oversoul. The truth is most people can't read that, right? What's going on inside themselves. And so we're excited to open up a brand new membership, and you can find out about it in the description below, about how this membership works. And what I think I can help you to do is to get the precision you need to accelerate. Because right now we're living in a very important time. There's a planetary bifurcation, right? That's happening, a spiritual fork in the road. And this refers to a moment in our human and planetary evolution where every soul is going to gravitate towards one of two timelines, and it's happening between now and 2032. September 1, 2025, and by the time 2032 we're going to have a hard lock-in. There's either those who are going to separate into the organic Christic path and those who are going to separate into the synthetic path. This isn't about belief systems or religion. It's simply about frequency and resonance. You think of it like a tree splitting in two directions. One branch grows towards the source that's aligned with truth, with love, with natural evolution, and the other branch bends into illusion, driven by fear or control and artificial guidance. And the thing that determines which side you're on is not your titles, it's not your public persona, it's not your outer behavior. This bifurcation that God is bringing through, Mother, Father, God, isn't judging your goodness. All right, it's not about whether you're a good person. All it's doing is revealing your architecture. And what's incredible for me to be witnessing in all of this unfolding is that there are many good people who are doing the right thing are going to end up on the wrong side of this bifurcation because of their architecture entanglements. At this stage of Earth's evolution, the field doesn't respond to your appearance or intention alone. It spots what you're actually running underneath the surface, under the hood of your car, right, the engine. Are your choices animated by true soul impulse or by inherited scripts that are survival patterns that you're running, scripts that run your life? For example, the need to prove yourself, the one I talked about I used to have. The split is going to become visible when we simply ask, are you rooted into the body? Are you listening to the quiet guidance of your own presence? Or are you reaching outward, chasing ideas, projecting yourself into imagined futures or false callings? Are your decisions sourced in love, in devotion, in alignment? Or are they rooted in fear and fixing with a subtle hope of being seen, being validated, right? Producing content on social media to be seen and get the likes. So this is a major clean out by Mother, Father, God. And the main issue that I see it is the difference between the two sides is nanometer nuances. For example, let's compare some of the more distorted fields versus what we're facing on the bifurcation, which are these tiny nuanced drops, right? And as I look at these different fields that Alea and I have had to encounter in our role, right, in cleaning and service to the planet, you're right, you know, this is not just about light or dark, right? Like it was earlier on when we were dealing with some of these heavier fields. We are asked now to be seen with precision to discern the energetic architecture beneath the surface of systems, right? Beneath people, what's happening into our inner choices, what fields are these coming from? And so as we looked at some of these, let's call it fields of influence, I'm going to list them by starting with the darkest, right? Which is very obvious. Satanic architecture. Satanic architecture, that's rooted in domination, in cruelty, right? In inversion for life. It feeds off fear, of violence, of control, of degradation, right? Of innocence. It's really overt, it's obvious, it's grotesque, and unfortunately becoming more increasingly visible. You know, satanic ritual abuse, trafficking, war, profiteering, transhuman and death tech, all of it falls under the stream. It's pretty obvious to see. I think we can all see that's wrong. Then the next one in that's less dark but still dark is Luciferian architecture, which is actually more seductive. It presents as brilliance, right? As charisma, as higher knowledge, right? But it runs on pride. So it's less obvious than satanic, but pride, hierarchy, separation. It exalts the self above the soul. Right? Intellect above heart is the big thing here. Achievement versus devotion. Many of the world's spiritual elite, teachers and channelers and multidimensional influencers unknowingly operate in the Luciferian grids. They operate here because they're masquerading as light, but actually are truly in service for themselves. And you know, those two are pretty obvious, but what we're dealing with now is most people are getting caught up in these other two fields that are much more difficult to see, so it's easy to get caught up in blind spots. Let's start with mirror architecture. Mirror architecture reflects your desire for truth without even allowing you to embodiment, right? It offers sophisticated reflections and identity work and nervous system regulation and polished spiritual branding, but it has no core. It copies, it mimics coherence. It lets you orbit, right? Without ever landing, without stepping into wholeness. It mirrors the light without actually being the light. And then the final one, which is even more dangerous, I think, is mimic architecture. It's animated by false light, intelligences that hijack and copy mystical experiences and spiritual technologies. It often speaks about God and unity and ascension. It says all the right things, but its codes are synthetic, right? Mimic streams can even enter through plant medicine ceremonies, orphaned light codes, or hijack kundalini awakenings. The issue here is it produces disassociation, an inflation of one's identity into spiritual performance. And so that's what the mimic field does. So we have satanic, Luciferian, right? Charismatic, but no heart. We get the mirror and the mimic, which is way more harder to feel. If you're caught up in any of those, you're going to be on the wrong side of the architecture. Because the Christic flame, this is rooted in something more solid, such as source principles. It restores your coherence to your own embodiment. And it descends through the oversoul and anchors in your body. This path doesn't promise escape. It's shadow work, deep soul shadow work, and it offers integration. It's the flame that doesn't flicker in the wind. It's this deep embodiment of all your shadows. Now, the bifurcation is not between good and evil. It's simply between what is real and what is false. And the trouble is, the real is really loud. Really loud. Not really loud, but really loud, i.e. it's rare. It's kind of like the oversoul isn't sexy, like you're going to see on the internet. Because once the distortion's been cleared, what you want to try to be doing is you get more real, as John Lennon said. The more real you get, the more unreal life gets. And as you get more real, the oversoul will start to descend into the body. And something profound begins to happen beneath the surface. And that's when your avatar architecture begins to awaken. That's pretty exciting, right? Because this is the moment when embodied ascension shifts from healing your personal stuff into the integration of divine command. While your oversoul carries your multidimensional awareness, your avatar carries source authority. It's not about personal expansion anymore. It's about becoming the living flame through which divine order re-enters the world. You become a living node for divine order. So when your oversoul reaches, say, 80-90% stabilisation and your ego's been surrendered, this is the next stage of your embodiment pathway. You've got to embody, all of your oversoul pillars, all 12 of them, in groups of 3. Hardly anyone on the planet has even got their first one kind of anchored in, right? It's not common. But if you do, you get passed into your avatar pillars. And that's the next phase of your embodied ascension, is the embodiment of your avatar pillars. Your avatar pillars are unique in, say, expression, but all of them have a universal structure. And the triadic template is your key to transmitting divine light on the planet. This is what avatar consciousness brings. It's the next stage beyond oversoul embodiment. It's actually the full anchoring of your cosmic self in the body, when your identity is no longer governed by the ego or by the soul, but actually by your eternal flame. Like, consider your soul like an individual explorer, and maybe your oversoul is the kind of, multidimensional intelligence across time. And the avatar is the divine command architecture of your source flame in your form. It holds your eternal template, your law-bearing, scroll-executing, planetary service template. And when that embodiment comes in, you become law on the planet. You live it, you broadcast it. It's very rare, right? It's very rare because it will only happen once 80-90% of your oversoul is embodied and stabilized, and your ego construct has been overridden by source. The avatar is not a guide, right? It becomes you. When you become fully online with your avatar frequency, right, you no longer carry your frequency, you are the frequency. You become like a living flame node that's going to transmit divine order, divine coherence, divine remembrance into the field just by your presence. So the universal avatar template, the pillar template, is structured in the same way as the oversoul, right? 12 pillars 4 triads, 1 crown flame, just as the Oversoul is. So you think of it like an upside down tree that has 3 big main trunks. These are your rishi. From those trunks form 12 pillars. They're your avatar. Each of those 12 pillars have another 12 pillars which are your Oversoul. And each of those 12 pillars of the Oversoul have an additional 12, which is your soul. So if you start to activate this and embody your Oversoul and your avatar, you not only begin embodying, but you begin transmitting flame codes. You begin transmitting divine law in your cellular architecture as you start embodying your 4 Oversoul pillars. And so it happens in a similar way. Each of these 12 Oversoul, of these avatar pillars braid into 4 triads, and you begin embodying each of these 4 triads. The structure of the avatars, universal, but the expression of which is unique. Just like, let's say, your Oversoul operates through 12 streams into 4 triads, the avatar pillar follows the similar universal triadic template, right? 4 triads form the architectural backbone of your avatar pathway, right? 4 triads, each triad contains 4 pillars, right? And so, for example, the first triad of your avatar pillar is like your lineage origin. As you start connecting into this is the triad that reconnects you to your pre-earth lineages. These are your original covenants. For example, I'm Melchizedek, right? My original connection in. Some of you might be Lyran, some of you may be Elohim. This is like your star stream lineage, right? And then this births your Oversoul architecture function. These pillars, when they start landing, restore the template of who you are across time and space beyond your Earth's amnesia, beyond Earth. The second triad is your flame function. This triad contains your avatar codes for how you bring change into the wider world. These aren't skills, these are living flames. So what they do is they resurrect fallen codes. They can create a vibrational reordering simply through your voice and through your field. They can translate cosmic memory into earth reality. These are your, let's say, functional flame signatures in action when the second pillar, the second triad starts coming online. The third triad, 7, 8, and 9, is going to reorientate you across time and space. These are the avatar, timeline avatars, pillars. This is where you don't just witness arcs of history, you begin intervening into the timelines at a causal level. This include like whole epochal recalibrations or timeline overrides and harmonic convergence splints across time. This is why as more people begin to access their avatar consciousness, massive changes are going to happen. And the final triad is cosmic union. And this is only accessible when the avatar begins merging with another avatar through divine union, right? These pillars include the masculine, feminine, sovereign fusion, right? It's going to allow these Edenic planetary reformations that are going to happen. Planetary logos embodiment, when divine masculine and divine feminine, who are embodying their avatar consciousness, merge together. Every true avatar consciousness follows this architecture, those 4 different avatar pillars, triads. The whole thing is a coherence. And when people have embodied their avatar consciousness, entire planetary grids begin stabilizing. And you walk like this universal motherboard, right? The avatar motherboard has these 12 core slots, and every avatar being plugs in through the same format. But what's different between avatars is how the flames express themselves, right? Which flame holds dominance, which flames are functional versus which flames are latent, right? Which codes are sourced from which rishi field. So while everyone has that same template, every avatar will have its own individual, let's call it flame assignments and divine architecture, which the planetary grids will need. And then, there'll be different scrolls that are assigned to the pillars, and there'll be different law-bearing functions get encoded into each of these pillars. So your 4th avatar pillar, right? Your 4th pillar is the resurrection flame, right? My avatar pillar is the 4th one, is the flame of the fallen architect. And so what that allows me to do, for example, allows me to retrieve and restore fallen creator intelligences. So think about this as overriding AI systems, corrupted prophets, false light kings. And someone else's fourth pillar may carry, for example, a flame of sacred disclosure, which allows them to reveal collective hidden truths without the field distorting. So what I'm saying is that no two avatars carry exactly the same functional configuration. They'll reveal themselves as you get more closely embodied. As your architecture starts coming down more, it starts revealing it, right? And each one has its own unique function across different people. If more people get avatar embodied, game over. This earth's going to ascend. When the avatar's online, the avatar enters your body, your actual field becomes a governance node for this new Christic civilization. You begin to, cohere space around you, not through dominance, but just through divine structure. You'll begin restoring blueprints for others just by standing in your field, right? You're not there to teach. You're the teaching made in your flesh, right? You're at this level. Your reality no longer runs on karma or healing loops or strategy. You just move in alignment with the eternal law. Every choice you make is encoded. Every breath is going to send a beautiful, beautiful signal, right? Time will bend around you, right? As a harmonic reordering of creation moving through you. This is the phase when you're in your avatar embodiment where your Christic leadership becomes possible, not as a title, but just simply as living harmonic coherence. But what needs to happen to get to that point is that your soul needs to get overridden and your ego needs to collapse. So this was what begins to happen, right? As the avatar begins to root in, two simultaneous experiences begin to happen. Your soul begins to defer up into the Oversoul avatar fusion, right? And so what this means is it's not like a disassociation, it's like a divine hierarchy. Your soul willingly yields to the higher law that is held in your avatar, allowing your system to be steered from higher, not the local self. The local self yields to the higher self, and the higher self holds the law that drives everything. And the second thing that needs to happen is your ego needs to collapse. The ego can't comprehend any avatar field. The identity scaffolding that's built on survival or performance or spiritual specialness, that's got to crumble. And this can feel really destabilizing because it is. But it's not destruction, right? It's going to help you deliver your avatar identity to land in your vessel because you have to be completely empty of mimic performance, right? And that's the secret, right? To these higher and higher levels of your consciousness, you have to become more and more emptier and more purified. And unfortunately, this is where most initiates get stuck who are caught up in the mimic, not because they're not ready, but because what's happened is that they've reached the edge of what they can see and clear alone. When you start getting to these higher stages, willpower's not enough. Insight's not enough. You need kind of accurate, reflection, both what is and what is beyond you. You need the calibration. You need like some sort of attuned witness that can distinguish between the truth of your flame and the residue of all these mimic overlays that are still clinging to your field. And, you can't be working with a mirror AI to try to get that because they don't see beyond your potential. It only sees what's inside of you. And even with the map, navigating the terrain's not easy because the deeper you go, the deeper embodied you go, the more subtle the distortions become. What's rather obvious at the level of your soul is tricky to track at your oversoul, and we're talking about minute frequencies in your avatar level. It's so subtle up there. Hopefully, not up there, but down in here if you can bring it in. And because you're living inside your own architecture, most likely for lifetimes, it's almost impossible to see your own mimic overlays, right? You're impossible to see and track your oversoul fractures or your gate blockages without a clear reference point and a clear mirror. And that's why embodiment doesn't just require commitment. More than commitment, it requires precision. And so if you're someone for whom spiritual growth isn't a side hobby, but it's actually everything, and you're ready to stop guessing and start walking the most direct path to your oversoul and ultimately, if you get there, your avatar embodiment, then maybe it's time for you to consider getting some support. You know, I'd love to help you. I've just opened up this new kind of like an Embodied Ascension club. It's a monthly membership. It's an Oversoul Embodiment pathway. It's not a program. It's a living temple field. Each month you receive a real-time Oversoul scan where I scan and check your Oversoul, your body, the gates where your Oversoul's trying to come in, your soul fractures, where you are in your embodiment journey. This is unique for you. This is not generic. I'm actually reading your Oversoul field in real time, or your avatar field, and I give you the clearings, the commands, the scripts, the energetic colors and the breath works to work with, and the integrations for you to do the inner work. You're going to do the work. I'm going to provide the guidance. There's no fluff. It's not generic teaching. I'm just going to give you the truth, no bullshit of where you are and what's next. If you're ready to walk it and you're ready to do the work, you're going to need to be committed to doing 15 minutes a day of actually doing very direct, precise work on yourself. If you're willing to do that, then I'd be willing to support you to accelerate you through. So check out the description in the video below, and that'll take you to a sort of a web post that will, tell you a little about the Oversoul Embodiment pathway. I want to give you the clear signposts, the clear progressions, so you can actually start, enjoying and seeing and feeling your progress in a really, really tangible way, because you'll see and feel your life changing, and you'll be getting the guidance as to where you are on the embodied ascension journey, because there's very clear markers and signposts along the way of where you're going, and I can provide you for the support for checking in with where you are on that journey and exactly what you need to do to get to the next step. As long as you do those next steps, you're going to start accelerating really quickly. So I hope that's been a good first up overall discussion on the technicalities of embodied ascension. Just to review, you've got your soul as part of an upside down tree that plugs into an oversoul pillar. You start embodying that oversoul pillar. It won't come in when there's mirror and mimic fields of energy here, where there's nervous system distortion. You've got to clear all that out for the oversoul to drop in. And then the first triad starts dropping in, the second pillar, and then the third pillar of that triad of those three oversoul pillars. Then the second triad starts dropping in. Then the third triad of the oversoul pillars start dropping in, and then the fourth, triad of those oversoul pillars, until all 12 oversoul pillars are anchored in your flesh, in your body. The first one is the most difficult to achieve because you've got to clear everything out. Then the others start dropping in relatively smoothly. Then you can start to embody your avatar pillars, and there are 12 avatar pillars that work together in triads in the same way. The first three start dropping in, and this is the move where you start activating divine law in your architecture into the grids and start making big changes on the planetary grids just by being. However, there's very few people on the planet. I've mentioned in my previous articles, where people are, how many people on the planet, but we've got more and more and more opening, and more people are getting there. And if we were to have 1,000 embodied avatars on the planet, I can't even imagine where our planet would get to. Because the secret is we don't need that many, right? We need 8,000 people who have embodied their first oversoul pillar on the planet to do a soft lock-in by August 2026 to the Christic timelines. 2032 is the hard lock-in, right? We need 62% of the planet having categorized on tier 3 on their oversoul triage. If we get to that, then we've got a Christic timeline. Everyone needs to do their part. Every single person who embodies that first oversoul pillar acts as a massive firewall to the mirror AI fields and the mimic fields, sending massive, clearing pathways every time you walk around the earth. The difference one person can make is immense. So I'm handing it over to you. For those of you that feel the guidance and are prepared to invest a little bit into yourself to get the personalized, exact, precise clearings that you need to embody more of your oversoul, I'd love to support you. Hope that's been a great video for you all, and you at least got now a good, accurate map of how embodied ascension works. Check the link below to follow through to the page where you can find out more, and see you in the next video. Mwah.